It's been called the death of Cambodia's democracy. A court in the capital, Phnom Penh, has jailed dozens of opposition figures. They were convicted of conspiring to commit treason. Rights groups say the entire process was a sham, accusing longtime leader Hun Sen of using the mass trial to crack down on dissent and hold on to power.
In a trial aimed at suppressing dissenting voices, Theary Seng, one of the accused, made it clear she had come to defend liberty.
I am freedom. I am your breath. You cannot live well without me.
Across the road in a courtroom, Seng and 60 other dissidents, many of them already in exile, were being tried for treason. The court alleges they helped plot the return of the leader of the banned Cambodia National Rescue Party, once the ruling party's main rival.
I am ready for the sham verdict that will be announced this morning, which will be a guilty verdict. I am ready and prepared to go to the notorious Cambodian prisons for my political opinions, for my beliefs, for my belief in democracy.
As the verdict was announced, Seng's prediction was borne out. She was found guilty and sentenced to 6 years in prison. Others received sentences of 5 to 8 years. Shortly afterwards, she was arrested and bundled into a police car. Scuffles then erupted between her supporters and police. Cambodian courts are widely believed to be under the influence of Prime Minister Hun Sen, seen here at local elections just over a week ago. He has been leading Cambodia for 37 years, human rights groups say, with increasingly repressive methods. Sen has effectively turned Cambodia into a one-party state by arresting and prosecuting his critics. This trial appears to be his latest attempt to stamp out any remaining opposition.
We can go now to Bangkok and speak to Phil Robertson, the Deputy Director of the Asia Division of Human Rights Watch. Phil, welcome to DW News Asia. You've spoken out very forcefully on the conviction of these opposition party members in Cambodia. On Twitter today, you called it an outrageous violation of rights. Could you run through exactly what you mean?
Well, these people have been hit with trumped-up charges and basically dragged in front of a court that is not independent. It is a kangaroo court that does the bidding of the ruling party and the Prime Minister of Cambodia. And what we're seeing is no real evidence produced at these trials to prove the cases of incitement or conspiracy that these people are being accused of and have now been convicted of. Again, it is just more of the same from Cambodia. It's a single-party state that is using unfair laws and unjust courts to go after the opposition and put them away for long prison terms. It is, again, an action by the Cambodian government to try to wipe out what remains of the political opposition and further narrow political space in the country.
Now, the US-Cambodian lawyer and campaigner Theary Seng, who was one of those convicted, and we just saw her in that piece, she says people in Cambodia are living in a dictatorship now. Is she right?
Oh, she's absolutely right. I mean, it's quite clear that the Cambodian government is becoming more dictatorial by the day. Rights abuses are expanding across the country. There is no political opposition, elected political opposition really to speak of. Hun Sen and his party and his government basically control all the levers of power, and they're not afraid to go after anyone that makes a criticism on Facebook or otherwise says something negative about the government.
Now, you just mentioned Prime Minister Hun Sen. What means do the international community have to pressure him over this, and how likely are they to use them?
Well, I think we need to see more pressure on trade with Cambodia. The European Union has an existing everything but arms agreement with Cambodia, and 20% of that was suspended before the pandemic hit because of labor rights violations. I think that the European Union should go back to that again and look at taking more. Frankly, Cambodia is in clear violation of the terms of the EBA agreement that requires Cambodia to follow existing international human rights treaties and labor rights conventions, and Cambodia is doing none of it.
Now, critics of Hun Sen say that over many years he has eliminated his critics, but specifically used the pandemic to do this too. To what extent did he use COVID-19 to expand his authoritarian control?
Well, he passed an emergency law that is breathtaking in its scope. It has not been invoked, but it essentially allows him to do anything he wants if he invokes that law. And he has used various different provisions of law against people who are criticizing him on Facebook, saying that the COVID pandemic response in Cambodia was not up to snuff, that, for instance, some of the vaccines that they had received from certain countries were not good. All the criticism that was made online. If you said something on Facebook about what the prime minister was doing on COVID, you could expect the next day or two that the police wouldn't be knocking on your door. And that is the new reality in Cambodia, that online surveillance is now matched with real repression on the ground by the police and the military, who are completely in Hun Sen's camp.
A pretty dim picture of this new reality, as you so describe it, Phil. More generally, what's the state of play when it comes to human rights in Cambodia?
Well, we are seeing civil and political rights being violated on a regular basis. This is freedom of expression, freedom of association. It's basically impossible to hold a political protest in Cambodia, in the capital city of Phnom Penh. People who are campaigning against dams, against land seizures, against other environmental issues that affect people's basic lives are facing arrests. It's across the board that we've seen a real tightening of repression against anybody who raises criticism against the government in Cambodia.
That was Phil Robertson, the Deputy Director of the Asia Division of Human Rights Watch. Phil, thank you very much.